Manor, the one that is a timeshare now.
Yeah.
All right, we are ready to go.
Are we ready?
Yes, we are.
Call the meeting to order. Please rise and pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Renee, please call the roll.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Canfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein, Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Here.
Let it also be known in attendance today is Town Manager Denham, Assistant Town Attorney Nazaro, Acting CFO Mark Bymaster, Chief Jones, and myself.
And a full house. We've been presented with the minutes from our last meeting on March 8th. Are there any corrections, additions, comments, or motion?
Motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting, March 8th.
Renee?
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Canfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein, Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Mr. Dunn, any changes to the
No, sir, we had.
agenda? Okay, our next meeting will be May 10th at 9 a.m. for anyone who wishes to attend. We have a new police officer, Tiara Hawkins. Tiara, there. Tiara, would you please stand? We're going to welcome you to the town. Close-knit community, with the great respect for our police officers and work very well with them. I hope you enjoy your time here.
Thank you, I'm sure I will.
Thank you very much. We don't want to hold you up.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Senator Fort Brand. So nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Good
What a
morning.
legislative update.
Good morning, Mayor, council members, neighbors. I'm Senator Lori Berman, and I represent the town, and I represented it for quite a few years. Always happy to be here and give my legislative update. So we finished session in the beginning of March. We have one legislative duty, and that is to pass a balanced budget. Happy to report, we were successful in that duty. And just like last year, we passed $117 billion budget. So really good things for the state, money for environmental projects, money for healthcare, money for education system. I brought back $17 million for various projects around Palm Beach County, so I'm very proud of that. So it was a really nice session this year. Last year, we had a lot of controversial issues. This year, much calmer. So hopefully that trend will continue. We'll see how that works. The most significant piece of legislation I think that we passed is called Live Healthy. It was a priority of the Senate president, and what it is she recognizes that we have so many people who are moving to Florida and they're going to continue to need health care. So she wants to make sure that we have the healthcare workforce for the future. Some of the things that we did were create some new medical residencies, do some student loan forgiveness for healthcare workers to come to Florida, set up some programs so that hospitals are not the first providers, so that we have a diversion from the emergency room to other places so that the emergency rooms can truly treat emergencies. So it's a great bill. It had bipartisan support. I think it will result in maybe even some immediate increase in the number of physicians and nurses that we have here in Florida, because it sends a message that we're going to support that community. I always like to report to you about what happened on the preemption side. So preemption is basically when the state says that This is we take control of this particular area, and we are not going to let any cities and counties pass laws in this area. I am against this. I am a strong supporter of home rule. I believe that the government closest to the people understands, and I think Florida is such a unique place with so many cities, so many counties, so many different geographic and areas that we shouldn't be passing one size fits all, which is what we do when we pass preemption. So a couple of bills that we did this year, and I don't know if you remember, but last year when I came here, I told you we passed the bill that was going to be the end of all preemptions. Unfortunately, it wasn't. This was another year with very many preemptions. So one of the things is HB 705, which says that if you have any public work projects, you cannot give priority to any of your local businesses. We also passed a bill, SC 1084, which says that you can't regulate any electric charging stations, that the Department of Agriculture will be doing that. We also passed a bill which was very controversial last year about local regulation of non-conforming and unsafe structures. And last year it didn't go through, this year it did. It basically says that you can condemn any buildings, and that even if they're historic, they don't have to be rebuilt along in the historic same area. Probably the one that might affect you, although probably hopefully not. We did pass a vacation rental bill, unfortunately, which is the Airbnbs. And we preempted pretty much everything to the state. So you, as a city, can't, including things like how many people can stay in in the rooms in the vacation rentals. That's now totally preempted to the state. The one thing that was the compromise is they said that cities can require vacation rentals to register. Cities can charge a fee for that registration, and cities can do inspections of the vacation rentals and charge a fee for that. Everything else is preempted to the state with regard to vacation rentals. I did vote against all of these bills, but unfortunately they passed. And I did want to give you a little update on Form 6, because I know it's been very controversial. So Form 6 is a financial disclosure that all of us as legislators have to file. And last year we extended it to all cities and municipalities that they also have to file it. And it's a pretty complete disclosure. And a lot of people who serve on boards do so out of the goodness of their heart and don't want all their financial disclosures out in the public. And we had a fair amount of people who resigned from a lot of our cities and counties because of having to do this requirement of the Form 6. And the legislature knew that. And they drew a line in the sand and they said, we are not going to walk back on it. There is a lawsuit pending. We'll see how the lawsuit goes. But the legislature said we are going to require everybody to have to do a Form 6. I also voted against that bill, but that is where we are right now. And I do, before I take any questions from you all, I do want to end with one. We always do some things that are a little bit lighthearted. I don't know if you remember last year we did strawberry shortcake as the official dessert of Florida. This year for the bill that was the most lighthearted, I would say, we honored our state troubadour and we're renaming A1A from Jacksonville down to Key West, and it will be the Jimmy Buffett Highway. So that's a little bit of a report about what's going on here in our state. I'm happy to answer any questions, happy to represent you. I'm here with my aide, Evelyn Duplessis. We have our office, it's at the Children's Service Council building on Gateway and I-95. We're always happy to help you with any issues having to do with the state. Thank you.
Senator, what was the vacation law again?
The number is SB 280.
Our existing vacation rental 3-month minimum has not been preempted. We are still.
Yeah, it's one thing. The state will have regulations. It may not necessarily be about hours. So again, we do appreciate your strong support of our home rule, defending our home rule. It's very important to us, all the small communities, particularly in the area. um, sounds like you were consulting against windmills.
I was.
We appreciate it very much. Any questions, Senator Berman? From the public? Well, thank you very much. I know you have other places to go. We appreciate when you come and update us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Town manager, our water, or I guess, Mr. Navarro, our water service.
Thank you, Mayor. So recent communications with the city of Boynton Beach have provided a more clear picture of the total cost to connect and the potential savings the town would realize over continuing to receive water from the city of Delray Beach. Even though Boynton Beach has offered a rate that is significantly higher than anticipated, the rate will still provide significant cost savings when compared to the rate increases Delray Beach has planned over the next few years that the city has enacted so that it can construct a new water plant. The question is whether that much smaller cost savings is worth it given the significant connection costs and other fees provided by the Boynton Beach Utilities Director. So Greg is meeting with the city manager in Delray Beach next week, and he's going to provide an update on the discussions with Boynton Beach. And then may result in staff starting to work on a long-term renewal with Delray. If anyone has any questions about this issue, I've pretty much been thinking about it nonstop for a few months, trying to figure out what the right answer is for the town. And it looks like it may be continuing to get water from Delray. We are constructing the water plant, so any issues that we may have had in the past will hopefully be alleviated, and it will just be higher rates. The issue, of course, with Boynton is, they are undertaking a lot of capital projects for the water plant and infrastructure. So there may be rate increases that come into the future. So I've asked for a 5-year rate with no increases. So those negotiations are still ongoing with that city as well. But that's my opinion.
We appreciate all the work we put into it, Fred. I know it's been nonstop effort on your part. What's our timeline? Would you estimate where we'll be able to make a decision?
So I think a lot of the figures have been provided from Boynton Beach. It's just getting with Mr. Flymaster and Tom Smith have been working on this a little bit with me to try to find out, based on all the financials, whether or not the cost connect is beneficial. Just sort of as a reminder, we're talking about a $2 million cost to connect. So we're sort of offsetting, determining what those cost savings are. So right now, the rate that we were offered from Boynton Beach is $3.75 per 1,000 gallons. Currently, Delray is at $3.81. Next year, we'll jump to $4.49, and then the following year, $5.28. So there are some significant jumps because they're trying to finance that, the water plant. But the question is, given those rates over time, whether or not it's going to be cost effective to switch providers.
And so the residents here, just confirm that we can maintain the arrangement we have with Delray pending our negotiations with either Boynton or Delray, because we can't have our water system.
That's correct.
Very good. CIP update, Mr. Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Anthony, can you, Anthony and I, along with Jockey, back, taking a further look at the sets of plans for our capital improvement project that begins in April. And we believe that there's some sections of streets that, I'll give you an example on Old School, that the plan that was approved has an 18-foot wide pavement. There's actually about 20 to 21 feet there now. It's just all covered up with grass and so people don't even know that. So our preference is not to reduce the width of any of the streets that we already have. And Old School is one of the worst streets that we have for running. You guys walk it or drive it all the time. It's all constantly covered with ruts and standing on. So, so we're looking at that street. We're also looking at the section of Banyan that is west of Polo. It's 18 feet, but that's another street that it's always subject to rutting. And so we'd like to widen that to 20 feet. We're looking at this as one chance that we have to really address the drainage and the rutting. And I think these are some changes that would help us address that. The other major one is looking at Gulfstream. They've got that at 18 feet, which is what it's at right now. What we would like to do is make that consistent with Polo, which is 20 feet from Gulfstream, Gulf View to Old School. And then especially from Lakeview North, where the cars line up for the school. So that is that going to be 20 feet or 20?
It's gonna end up being 21.5 feet, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Because a half of that foot of the 21 is gonna be off curb. That's incorporated with the value.
Right. So we're gonna incorporate curbs, and at that location, we're also gonna incorporate curbs. We've already talked about this at the intersection of Polo and Old School. That is really the worst intersection that we have in town. And so we have already talked about curb there. And we find that there's other locations that curbing might help with the drainage and rutting. We'll come back and suggest those to you. So these would require change orders. And so I don't have any dollar amounts for those change orders at this point in time. The engineers are working on that. But we just feel like these are changes that we should make to really address the problems that we have.
So it needs to be engineered and then,
Yes,
and then,
and then,
put out those costs by the contractor, brought back to us.
correct,
When do you expect that?
in the next couple of weeks. So what I'm looking for you today is just some kind of validation of what we're trying to do here, and then we'll bring those numbers back to you.
Yeah.
And I talked to Anthony about this last week, and that the project is sort of, you get it all engineered, and then you have a little bit of a design build, plus you're on the streets every day, we're on the streets every day. We have new issues, old issues, and, we had a little bit of reticence about curbing because of the look of the town, but I think the drainage, the rutting, and, obviously the other issues that we're doing, you got to sort of widen the roads within all of our easements.
Correct, and again, remember, we're in Valley Gutters, and so, for Old School, we would have 20 feet of pavement, 16 of that would be asphalt.
Then there's the issue that the valley gutters might crack. Possibly.
Well, I mean, throughout time, they'll be fine as long as we don't have like really large trucks like every day, constantly putting pressure on them. Because like anything else, it doesn't matter how strong you build it, it creates a weak point after a certain amount of time. So, but I don't think that we'll have any, as far as like, common areas where we have just regular local traffic, we should be fine with that.
Now, don't think of a valley gutter as what's called the F curve, that's where you have a curve, it's just a map.
Right.
It's driving, but what it also does is encourage people to stay off the grass and to drive on people believe that they have to drive on the asphalt, but when needed, you can pass on it. So, and of course, then it helps the drain. So this is the best shot that we have at addressing these rutting and drainage problems. So it's one change that we'd like to recommend to the commission.
they not notice that that road was 22 feet down? Because we widened it
Yeah, we did.
years ago,
twice.
yeah.
Yeah.
They did the design originally, when I overlooked it. Originally, when we first did the design on it, I was really focused more on our drainage and our water and not really focusing too much of what the road was at the time when I looked at it. And then after the fact, when we saw everything was getting to the point where it was finalized, that's when I noticed that the roads were shrunken. And then when they had the contractor come out and meet with us, we did an assessment, and the actual main reason why it needs to be changed is because the cul-de-sac at the end of Old School and Right Way was shrunken 7 feet.
Yeah.
And that wasn't good.
We're not doing that. So,
So to replace everything to where it was and have pavers put in front of the residents' home that they can possibly have matched to go back out there and fill in that section, we made sure that we left it exactly the way it was, because, you know, there's no guarantee that you'll be able to find the materials to replace what needs to be replaced.
and a lot of this is to make the roads consistent, and which will end up looking better. Banyan is 20 feet until you get to Polo, and it reduces to 18. So we'd like to just maintain consistency with the widths of some of these roads.
Yes, we want uniformity of roads, so that we can to maximize the size within our town.
Correct.
I think we get a cost.
And I think we would all.
I think we'll do it, but
This was good.
Yeah.
Well, I have to.
Yeah.
So,
but I think we should do it.
And this won't delay the start of the project.
Yeah, the other change that we're making is that it was going to begin on the south side, Gulfview, but anticipating king tides in October and November, we'd like to turn that around and start on the north end here in Old School, because the king tides just the
The water elevation, I think the road rises when the king tide comes in, because.
we'd like to get that construction done before we get this king tides.
I would agree with that.
So that's another change in the schedule, and we've changed the schedule. And
We have not yet. It will be.
So the residents know. The project initially, when we spoke about this at the school last month, brought in the engineers and contractors to discuss the project. We were going to start on the south end. We're going to swap that now to the north and at Old School, because that's the lowest point. It's the real drainage problem. And that needs to be addressed. So,
Definitely, as soon as we get the numbers, we'll come back to you.
great. Anything else on the CIP? All right, let's move on then to the feral cat.
Okay, a petition was recently provided to the town manager indicating that there was an issue with feral cats. This is not an issue to resolve. As many of you remember, the Canizaro home at 3112 Bell Street Road is still referred to as the cat lady's house. After contacting a large number of animal trappers and others, I found a nonprofit who specializes in TNVR, which stands for trap, neuter, spay, vaccinate, and either return or relocate. The return is typically for adults, and relocating for kittens. Relocation is so that the small cats can be adopted and find a good home. I would ask anyone that knows a member of the community that is feeding feral cats or wild animals, please ask them to stop. Or you can call the town and we can speak to them as well. Because feral cats can explode very quickly, and we'd rather prevent the unnecessary suffering of cats and kittens who die. So hit by dogs. So we do have a process in motion. So
And do you know who is feeding the cats in town? Have you spoken to them?
we have a very good idea. It's kind of process. And so we're trying to address the cats that are out there now before we cause any problems in getting this.
There's a law against feeding cats.
In Gulf Stream, there's an ordinance.
Yeah, well, the ordinance does not, it doesn't address feral cats, but it does address animals at large. And so we are looking at some codes that other towns have that do specifically address feral cats. So.
I must say, as much time as Attorney Nazaro has spent working on the Boynton Beach Delray water, if you come to spend an equal amount of time addressing feral cats, it's getting tired of hearing about it.
Really not that easy.
That sounds like you finally narrowed it down to an appropriate cat catcher. Thank you very much. Ad hoc committee update, Mr. Nazaro.
Yes, for those of you who are unaware, the county commission formed an ad hoc committee to address the issue of massing in core district. Members include Paul Lyons, Michael Glennon, Tom Smith, Gary Cantor, Bill Coates, and Malcolm Murphy. These members are a cross-section of core area residents and members that are familiar with the town code and its application above. The committee has met twice, most recently Monday, and plans to meet approximately twice a month for the next few months to propose zoning changes to the core district. On Monday, we heard from Mr. Dana Little, who is an urban designer with a degree in architecture, who works as the urban design director for the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. The Treasure Coast Planning Council is an organization created by and for local governments to provide planning and technical assistance services and assist in carrying out Florida's management program. TCRPC was established in 1976 through an interlocal agreement between Indian River, St. Lucie, Martin, and Palm Beach counties. So the work Mr. Little performed for us was part of his job and has cost the town nothing. However, he brought a wealth of knowledge and was well prepared for the meeting. Earlier in March, myself and Mr. Nazaro invited Mr. Little to tour the town in the golf cart so he could get an up close and personal look at the beauty that is the core district and see some of the issues we are facing up close and personal. He reviewed sections of the town code and provided insight during the meeting about some critical features the town already has incorporated into its code, and there was discussion about a number of ideas. Mr. Little's participation triggered valuable discussion among the members this Monday. So we look forward to more discussion with the committee and any ideas that they would like staff to investigate further. So that's, we've had 2 meetings. Actually accomplished a lot in this team.
That's great news. As Mr. Lyons indicated, how many more meetings he expects to have?
The next meeting is scheduled for April 25th at 8:30, as there is no ARPB meeting that day because we didn't have any applications. So they're going to meet at 8:30 again, and we're bringing in 2 architects to that meeting. He wants to be done by the end of May.
Yeah, before the summit.
Before he leaves.
Thank you very much. Personnel update.
Yes, and finally, I think all of you know that Melita that used to work for us, she doesn't work for us anymore. This wasn't any job related. I think personal issues that she was facing made it necessary for her to leave. So we readjusted how we're doing that, and the town is now going to, under our current contract that we have with Norman Hope Miner, we're going to use Norman Hope Miner as our chief financial agent. So they will deal with the day-to-day checkbook type issues and anything else that CFO would handle. But in it, that's part of her job. Melita used to answer the phone. She did other work that's necessary for the office. And so we don't have with her leaving, we don't have that, that coverage. So we have hired a court receptionist who will fill in and do that type of work. She's a temp at this point in time. So she's working with us and we're looking to see how that works out. So far, we're very happy with the work that she's been doing. And I think she's happy with the town. We're going to let that continue for a couple of weeks to see how that goes. That's the way I think Renee started here. That's the way Rebecca started here and Dean.
Mhm.
So we've had some good luck with that. And we have a good person in that position. You might have seen her this morning after the meeting last morning. Introduce yourself to her. She's very nice. So we believe that the cost actually, I don't believe that they'll be in here 4 days, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. They can do a lot of this work from the office. Right now, he's here more just
During the transition.
during the transition. So, it's working out very good.
Maybe you've been doing all of it. Anyway, it's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, welcome. All right, thank you very much. ARPD meeting, our next meeting is April 25th, however, it's not.
Correct,
So it will be a public meeting
yes.
regarding the massing ad hoc committee for anyone who wishes to attend and participate. Finance director report back at you, Mr. Down.
Yes, sir. This balance sheet budget report represents 6 months of budget. I did want to point out in the administration expenses, you'll see that the miscellaneous professional services building inspection is at 189% instead of 50%, but this is basically a pass-through.
That's the pass-through. There's a revenue and expense that's reported in the same amount. It's due to the processing through Highland Beach and Delray, mainly Highland Beach now. And it's just the amount budgeted was just lower than what the actual building permits that are being processed. But it's just a pass-through, so it's the town's not incurring any more expenses than the revenue that's coming in.
Also, you'll notice accounting and auditing fees are 102%. I think that reflects how much it was necessary for Mark to be here to handle that CFO position. And it also includes the cost of audit.
Correct.
So, but as you can see, we're at 71% our budget that we use in expenses, so we're still good.
Very good. Any questions, comments on budget or finance? Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Chief, please update.
I would ask that you accept the report as submitted. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. If you'll notice, the traffic contacts continue to be on the rise. That's just a result of our enhanced interactions with folks on A1A and other areas that continue to create some traffic-related concerns.
What's the difference when you see one police officer stopped out there versus two?
So typically, if 2 officers are together, there's either a higher risk associated with the traffic stop because of the person who needs stop or because of flags that may be indicative of the tag or the driver's license. But it can also just simply be that there's activities associated with towing that vehicle or doing other things that may require a secondary call.
Very good. Because you've been very active out there. See vehicles stopped with red light.
Yes, sir. I'm there every day.
Thank you very much, Chief. Any questions? If not, we'll accept your report as submitted. All right, let's move on then to the Gulfstream School Development Agreement. Mr. Nazaro, could you introduce the topic?
Thank you, Mayor. So we have before you for approval, the third amendment, the development agreement. So my understanding is many years ago, the school and the town entered into a developers agreement that limited certain construction activities at the school, which would prevent the school from always essentially requiring the school to always get variances when they came in for approval, because it's a non-conforming use on a residential area. So part of that was enrollment figure cap of 250 students. So the school reached out to us and indicated they would like to increase that cap. So as part of this third amendment to the developers agreement, the cap would be increased from 250 students to 300 students for 5 years. Also included in the language is an exclusion for students solely enrolled at the Gulfstream School Delray Beach campus. That's language that the school requested, just to make sure that there was an understanding that we would not be counting any of those students who are enrolled elsewhere, which made sense, as those students do not impact traffic on our roads if they're solely at a different area in Delray Beach. Another part of the amendment is there was already an annual payment to the town from the school based on the town's cost to provide a police presence for traffic control. Some of you may know that the school is a nonprofit and therefore is tax exempt and does not pay property taxes to the town. So that figure increased in this agreement to reflect a more accurate figure of what it costs for the town to provide those services. And then finally, at number 3, there is an agreement for the parties to discuss the impacts, if any, of increased traffic and other things in 3 years to determine whether or not to extend that 300 student enrollment figure. So with that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to discuss. I think we have maybe a representative from the school here as well. So do you have any questions?
We do. Vice Mayor, you're still on the board?
Yes, so I'm planning voting conflict.
You're recusing. Questions from the commissioners? We've gone over this topic a number of times, but I think there are a number of people who would like to speak. Particularly Mr. Arscott, spoken to you, yes, on the phone. Perhaps you take the lead in carrying this topic to the force. Would you please stand, and I think you should swear in anyone who's going to speak today or may speak today, please rise and be sworn. So my name is John Arscott.
Please raise your right hand. Please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
My name is John Arscott. I live at 582 Palm Way. And I want to thank the commissioners and the mayor for the work you've done. I've been the beneficiary of all your great work for the last several years. I've done it in 09. So I want to thank you. It's a thankless job, and I probably think that. The other thing is I'm not an anti-Gulfstream school person. I too came here to this community because of a boutique small school, which was attractive to me. But the key now is small. So what I did was I've experienced several traffic issues myself getting in and out of the community. So I decided to do a little petition, which some of you might have seen. There's now 43 names on this petition opposing the increase in enrollment for the school. So, my question is, what does this benefit? Smaller classroom sizes are usually a benefit to school. So a larger school, I'm not quite sure why we're going there. The community itself, I'm guessing there's maybe 30 students from our community that actually go to the school. So I'm not sure the benefit to the community itself. And this school has been in business since 1938, and it's worked with this enrollment since 1938. And I've heard the argument about inflation and costs, but I actually went back and looked at it. And since the inception of the school, inflation, 27 years, inflation has been higher than it is right now. And it's what the school has been able to work. So the argument that because costs have gone up, have happened in the past, and usually now with technology going up, it allows us to be more efficient, be more cost effective, And the argument is we can't stay in business if we don't do it. So we have 4 access roads to the community. The southbound in Gulfview is southbound only, which is a problem. As we move up to Lakeview is clogged for an hour and a half in the morning and certainly about an hour in the evening. And next to Banyan, when we leave Banyan, you have visibility problems coming up. And then we go to Sea Road and it also is clogged. So the school is clogging up the community, and I'm actually losing my goodwill for the school because I find it now that we've already increased to 300. And they violated the agreement that was in place with no repercussions. And now we're going to approve it. So I think we're going to head for a traffic nightmare here when we start construction. And I would ask that you do not go through all the early school and let us hit the community. Thank you. Perhaps someone from the school could speak. There's reasons.
I'll take it, Mr. Arska.
Give that to.
Good morning, Elizabeth Reyes, Mr. Beckman, working with First Street, Town. I'm here this morning with Mr. Donovan as well on behalf of the school to answer any questions. But just a brief statement. The school is truly a community school. It is an asset to this community. As Mr. Ascott noted, that his name, that's what drew him to this community to begin with. I'm looking to put my daughter at this school as well. I've spoken to Mr. Donovan about that. Some of you may have your children or grandchildren at the school. Again, a true asset to the school. Has it grown slightly? It has, not significantly. It's not an astronomical growth, but it has grown. It is quite popular. Again, I'm looking to put my daughter here at the school. I need to move a little bit closer from the golf. I'm working on that. But again, it's an asset that we want to maintain. I understand that property values have gone up. I understand that Wall Street does pay property taxes. But again, property values are going up partially because of having the school in the town as an asset. With regard to construction is temporary. Will it be an inconvenience? Absolutely, I have no doubt. But it is temporary, and I'm sure any construction is going to be done expeditiously as possible, as humanly possible. Now, with regard to the traffic generated by the school, every school has traffic during drop-off and pickup. It is a reality. Many of the students that go to Gulfstream live within the town of Gulfstream and have the ability to walk there. That does not hold true for everybody, understandably so. So there is probably a 10 to 15 minute peak hour queue in the morning and that peak hour queue in the afternoon. Again, is it an inconvenience? Absolutely. It's a school. Any school is going to have those trips associated with it. But we're talking about a very small period of time, twice a day. 10 to 15 minutes in the morning, 10 to 15 minutes in the afternoon. I too, again, hopefully next year my daughter will be at Gulfstream, but she goes to Addison Mizner in Burgertown. That is where I live. We actually chose the location of our home because I can't walk my daughter to school. I do not drive during the time of peak hour and drop off and pick up. I do have that luxury. Not everybody does, but I'm walking my daughter to school as many do in Gulfstream. But I avoid driving during that 10 to 15 minute period in the morning and that 10 to 15 minute period in the evening or in the afternoon. So I think that at the end of the day, the real question is this a school we want in the town of Gulfstream? And I'm hoping the answer to that is yes. Will the traffic get worse than it is today? Absolutely not. The children are already there. So whatever traffic that is being experienced will not be increased. And again, just to close, it's 10 to 15 minutes place. And I'm here to answer any questions, as is Mr. Donovan.
Questions? I mean, we all appreciate the importance of the school what Mr. Scott is addressing is an increase in traffic and the difficulty of accessing A1A. And I think that's what needs to be addressed. And then the reasons why the school needs to increase its student body. Maybe Dr. Smith could speak to that.
I'd be happy to. So when we originally made the proposal, oh, and before I get started, I would like to join Mr. Arscott in thanking the town for the presentation at the chapel. I thought it was done really well. We appreciated all that information. I have a call in to Mr. Sellers. He's supposed to come by on Monday morning, talk to me a little bit more about that. When we originally made the proposal, it was to gain 50 students on the main campus. The reason, as Mr. Arscott alluded to, was rising costs of everything. And ability to be able to manage our tuition rates, not raise tuition through the roof in order to keep our school enrolled and in order to make it an attractive place to send your child to an independent school. And lastly, to stay competitive within the market of other schools. There are certain things that families today expect and demand from independent school, including specialists on staff, armed security, various levels of technology integration. All of these things are very expensive. So we were asking for those extra 50 students in order to accomplish those three things.
I think during COVID, those 50 students came on board through virtual classes. So when you came to us, they were already there because they were virtual, basically. Is that correct?
We held virtual classes during
That's what I meant.
when the school was closed, yes.
And then they came back to campus when they weren't.
Yeah, yes.
And your traffic plan has been approved by the Gulfstream Police.
The Gulfstream Police are on campus every morning. We have 2 lanes open for traffic now where we used to have 1. 10 minutes maybe on a good day. If there's a broken down landscaping truck on Old School Road or on Gulfstream Road, yeah, you're gonna have to wait a little bit in line. These are just the realities of living in a small town. But generally, on a day-to-day basis, our line we're currently at 296. Our line moves as fast or faster than it did when I first came here. We were 232.
So we have made changes with the school over the last 2 years to change the way in which the flow of traffic routed through the school to try to keep the line flowing and prevent it from backing up. Additionally, the school has made some changes prior to my arrival as the chief, where they now do 2 afternoon dismissals versus 1 to reduce the number of vehicles that are coming in town at a specific given time and allow that to happen over 2 instances, which does in fact help the volume of traffic. But I think there's a bigger issue that relates to traffic, if the commission would mind me speaking about it. And that is since COVID, as a police chief in both here and Ocean Ridge previously, we have seen a drastic increase in traffic activity on A1A. And I think that a lot of the traffic related issues that we are all experiencing is a result of the increase in population and the increase in traffic that we're seeing on A1A, and not specifically the school. Does the school attribute to some of that? Absolutely. But what I've noticed is, and I've done some research as well over the last several days, the Palm Beach County increase in population is on the rise from 2020 to current on average 2 to 3% per year. Based on our Palm Beach County population being at 1.5 million or more, that's about 30,000 people that are increasing in our county every single year. So just over the last 4 years, we're looking at 120,000 people added to Palm Beach County. And as you all know, we've seen developments just across the bridge in Boynton that have begun to pop up. Hundreds of residences added right here locally to our community. And I do believe that a lot of that is creating to the aggravation of traffic within our community. So over the last 3 days, I have purposely placed myself on A1A. Most of you have probably seen me. And I've started to time the amount of traffic when it really starts to pick up in school hours and when it starts to decrease. So in the morning time, I started at about 7:30 a.m. and ended at about 8:25 a.m. During that period of time, the school is not creating a lot of the traffic flow, but it gets busiest around 8:10 in the morning. And that's obvious based on the school hours. But what we've seen and what we've timed is that at no point in time on C Road specifically have there been more than 5 vehicles lined up to exit onto A1A. And the longest that any of those vehicles waited was 1 minute and 6 seconds, which is about half the time that you typically wait at a normal red light in Long Beach County. So the reason I was doing this was to try to evaluate if we needed to look at an alternative method of traffic pattern for the school and whether or not we needed to consider placing a police officer at C Road and A1A to direct traffic. But based on what I'm seeing over the last 3 days, and I will be honest, we're now looking at some of our seasonal folks leaving, so the traffic may be slower this week than it was a month ago. I completely, take responsibility for not being aware that there was an issue and not timing that prior. At this point in time, I don't think based on what we're seeing morning time frames and afternoon time frames, we're seeing on average about 30 to 40 seconds to get onto A1A. When you're waiting 1 minute and 6 seconds, it's one group of cars and it happens one time during morning and one time during afternoon at the busiest portion of traffic drop off and or pickup. So I don't think at this point I would recommend to the commission that we make any changes to what we're currently doing, other than we start monitoring it better from the police perspective to make sure that if we do see a significant change in traffic delays in the morning or afternoon on a specific day or during a specific time frame, that we work with the school directly to address that problem and resolve it, rather than it being something that the residents have to be frustrated with or have to deal with.
On Bellevue Road, we made it one-way right turn. It used to be both ways. I know it was the Australian planning, but
Yes.
is there a way, a mirror or something we could
I
do
don't,
to make it both ways to let the residents have another access?
I wouldn't recommend changing it based on safety alone.
Okay.
It's almost impossible to see to the left because of the curve and the trees both. So I don't think that a mirror or anything else would really resolve that. But one of the things that we could do if we continue to see increases, both non-seasonal timeframes and seasonal timeframes, is work with the school to reroute traffic down to Gulfview so that they're lining up more along Gulfstream Road at a longer distance, primarily in the afternoons, because the afternoon is when you're seeing a line form. In the morning, the line is rolling through so quickly that you really never see a line form. But the afternoon time frames, that's when they're waiting on school to release and parents are coming a few minutes early to be in line. And that's when we start to see the line back up all the way to A1A and Lakeview on some instances. We don't see it interfere with A1A, but it does truly back up around the intersection. And obviously, if anybody lives in that area, they're going to be affected by it. So I think we need to do a little bit better of a job from the police department's perspective at looking and timing on a regular basis at random what's happening, and then evaluating whether what we're doing is working correctly or whether we need to make some adjustments with the school to make the flow of traffic a little better, including during construction.
Currently, as I understand it, the traffic pattern is such that upper school exits through the gate on A1 behind the school. And the lower school goes out C Road. We have a police officer at the gate.
Correct.
Right. Whereas the main problem, at least as Mr. Scott has described, and I think others have as well, is C Road. It's not the gate. So as you're monitoring this, and I've spoken to Dr. Smith about it, the school, I take it, would be more than agreeable to allow us to move our officer to C Road, and the school would place a traffic control security guard.
But yes, we will work with the town police force, absolutely.
Because Lynn, you're right, I've noticed the traffic has decreased on A1A just this week
Yes.
compared to several weeks ago. So it is something that we need to keep an eye on for next year.
And I also will obviously make everyone aware too, that's the busiest timeframes of normal traffic patterns in any city is between 7 and 8 in the morning and, 3 and 5 in the afternoon. All traffic picks up everywhere. And as a result, we even have trouble as police officers getting in and out of A1A during other hours of the day when there's no school traffic even affecting it. So I know the traffic is a bigger issue than just simply the school, but, we obviously, we have some ability to change what we're doing to manage the school traffic a little bit better. And obviously, there's not much we can do about the other traffic.
And you may need to implement that arrangement sooner than later, because construction here starts in 10 days.
Right.
Now, it won't be very disruptive then, but within a short period of time after that. So you may want to coordinate with Dr. Smith as a moving circle to see, and doing whatever is required to expedite our residents' ability to access it in a reasonable fashion.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I'm ready to have the conversation. As I said, Mr. Sellers is coming on Monday morning to give me some better insight.
All right, very good. Thank you, Chief. There are two topics. One is the traffic issue. The other is actually whether the student body should be justifiably increased from 200. So there are a lot of residents here. I saw a bunch of hands go up and be sworn in. So anyone who wishes to speak to those topics, we'd like to hear from you. Glenn.
My name is Michael Glennon. I'm father of a current Gulfstream pre-K student, as well as a 1-year-old. Honored to be here again to speak on the future of Gulfstream and the proposed expansion. I live at the corner of Lakeview and Gulfstream at 101 Lakeview Drive. I would really venture to say that there is no house, as I've said before, more impacted by the car line on a daily basis, given that Monday through Thursday, the cars are sectored down Lakeview in front of the front door of my house, and then around the corner down Gulfstream toward the back of my house. And that's, as we just said, once in the morning and twice in the afternoon. Gulfstream, actually via the book, Mr. Arscott, you were right on the money, 28 families and households with a Gulfstream address now send students to the school, many of these households with multiple students at the school. There are additional families with young children who are likely hoping to send their kids to Gulfstream in the future. Many of us have long-term connections to the community and have only recently bought homes in Gulfstream, contributing to that rise in real estate values. And in my opinion, the notion and commentary that we have to protect Gulfstream from the school is as ill-informed as it is insulting. The town and the school work and have always worked together to do what's best for our entire community, regardless of each bracket. And we have now discussed this issue before the commission for 6 months and in many meetings. I imagine you are very tired of hearing from me. Over these months, I believe the school has created a community-centric approach to the CAP expansion that incorporates the commission's feedback and works to reduce the impact of the town. Any expansion will not put 50 additional cars in the car line. Students living in Lake Ida, up to 40 per day, are going to be dropped off at the Delray campus and commute via bus, which likely is going to take a number of cars out of the community, as well as off the George Bush Bridge in the morning and the afternoon. Given the demand for Gulfstream school spots, many of the 50 students that would benefit from the school expansion are likely Gulfstream residents and families, such as myself, that walk to school each morning, or siblings of existing students that would put a net new cars of 0 on the road. The commission endorsing the 300 students that are already on campus will also facilitate removing the youngest and slowest students, the pre-K 3s, from the car line, given that they will be moving to the Gulfstream campus. As I've said before, they're the ones that are in car seats. They're the ones who struggle to say goodbye to parents. The school is not immune from factors, economic and otherwise, impacting South Florida. Numerous homes within the core have undergone full construction or gut renovations over the last year, bringing tens of cars into the neighborhood from contractors, in addition to more full service vehicles, landscaping, and other vital service providers serving the needs of the Gulfstream residents that are increasingly full-time. These cars often park and block one lane of traffic on Gulfstream and Polo on a daily basis, or will line up on C Road waiting to turn left in multi-carriage vehicles, thus making it a lot harder to turn left. On a socioeconomic basis, demand for the school spots is up, given the influx of younger families in South Florida, and the school is a key attractor in bringing those communities, bringing those families to Florida. All of us have been impacted by inflationary pressures in our economy, but in particular, insurance. Mine are going up 20 to 30% a year. That escalation is simply beyond the ability, likely the school knows better than I, but to finance through tuition increases. Well, I believe we're all anxious about the infrastructure improvements over the next years, whether it be the core road work or replacement of George Bush Bridge. The car line is disruptive, although I think the police presence has improved it. Any expansion of CAP and Gulfstream School in front of the commission is independent of these considerations. We will all be impacted by this over the next couple of years and all have a responsibility to adjust, school and parents alike. The school should consistently remind parents not to block driveways, to utilize prescribed roads for pickups, aggressive driving to be met by a response both from the school and the police, and ensure that there's a mechanism for communication, quick response, and accountability to the town itself when feedback is given and issues arise. Gulfstream is a key asset in attracting families to our community, which is shown in how the community has shifted over the last 5 to 10 years to more year-round residents and families. I would like to commend the commission again for their thoughtful approach and work on this issue and encourage a vote in favor of the expansion of the commission staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this topic? Mr. Chairman.
I had intended not to speak at all, but I think that the gentleman who's just up here made some very important points. And I'll just try and add one more, which is that traffic is going to get worse over time regardless. All of these new buildings that are coming in Boynton and Delray are going to be filled with people with cars. And we are looking at a time frame with the big unknown being when and how will the bridge down some of us here be rebuilt. That is a 4-year project. For 4 years, potentially, we will not be able to go over that bridge and into Delray. We have to think about this subject, which is a very important subject to particularly the person who lives next door to the school. But in a bigger context, we have to be thinking about how do we protect both the sovereignty and the stability of Gulfstream in an era in which there are going to be more cars and there's going to be a loss of a bridge that gets us over on the mainland. So I think that what you're talking about now, albeit very important, and particularly important to people whose life is for several minutes or 10 minutes a day at some risk, that we have to be thinking long term. We all know that the various administrations are thinking about widening the A1A or allowing more bicyclists on A1A. And once that's done, A1A will be a very different road. I look back, there was a point in time in which women in Gulfstream chained themselves to the Australian pines, literally chained themselves to the Australian pines so that the government would come in and take them down. Everything we think about with respect to this issue has to be in the context of what kind of Gulfstream do we want to have 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Not just what could we do today to make it a little more convenient for people to pick up their children at the Gulfstream School. This is a fundamental issue that we all face. And what we think about today has to be thought about in the context of the future.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Comments by the commission? I'd like to speak to Mr. Arce. And I told you, I support this increase. I supported it before, I support it today. But I want to speak to the arguments you make. We all agree Gulfstream School is integral to the town of Gulfstream. It's a critical component of our town. Attracting people, new, younger people, and making property values stable and rising. Gulfstream School must compete as a private school against other private schools. Unlike many of the others, it does not have a high school to compete to. Places that school ends. So it must compete. And the way it must compete is keeping its tuition at a reasonable level, yet facing significantly increased costs. And I went back and looked at our first discussion on this back in June. Things that are different now at Gulfstream School than they were in 1994 when we had the first agreement. The first is technology. The cost of technology is significant. It's over $4 million a year for the school. It has to be in place and it has to be serviced to be competitive. Security. We now have a security guard. They've replaced all windows, doors, put in cameras, locks, and gates. All at significant infrastructure costs because you must have that to be competitive. They have a full-time nurse. You have to have a nurse now in schools. I believe there's even a mental health counselor, something that we didn't have it in 94. It's now almost required in 2024. They have a full-service kitchen providing hot meals on premises. This is something every other school has. The school must have it. And that must be staffed. Insurance. Insurance, we all know, has risen dramatically since 1994. At the time, in 94, the school's insurance was about $45,000. It's now over $300,000. I don't know what it's for sure. It's over $300,000. And most importantly, it has to attract top-notch faculty. Degree, master degree faculty. They're competing against these other schools. They must pay higher salaries and provide compensation packages. All of this is so different from 1994. And those costs have to be absorbed by the school. Yet you cannot continue to raise tuition. You no longer are competitive when you don't have high school. So for those reasons, I support the 300 threshold of students at the Gulfstream School. Any other comments?
I was here in 1994, and there were not near the amount of young families in town. And today, I think you see a lot of the young people coming in with golf carts, so it doesn't really add to the traffic so much. Excuse me. I am for this, but I wish it hadn't happened the way it did. And also, I hope that we maintain 300 people and not go over that and have a count every year. So the commission is not surprised by more students in the future. And also, I think Gulfstream School should, it's a very special place, but it should maintain a little school by the sea, not let's see how big we can get. Because, you know what, it used to be an older community, now it's younger, and I think there's a place for us all. And so I respect the older people who are still trying to get their way out of Gulfstream. But through the police department and the traffic proposal, I would support this.
Very good. Is there a motion regarding the third amendment to the
I have
development agreement?
Just a quick question.
I need you to go to the microphone. I'm sorry, for the record. Thank you.
Just informational.
State your name for the record, please.
Sure, Louise Connor. I was just wondering how many students who are enrolled live in Gulfstream? So in terms of your point before of kids being able to walk to school, how many are percentage?
It's approximately 25%.
It's a bigger number than it was in 1994, I can assure you.
Right. Is there a motion regarding the development?
I move to approve the Gulfstream School Development Agreement.
Second. Renee?
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Canfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein, Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Mr. Arscott, thank you very much. I hope you realize we, and not just you, but the 40-odd residents who signed your petition. I hope you recognize that we evaluate this, we take this very seriously, do not dismiss your complaints, and hope to address the traffic issues through Chief Jones, who is now very attentive to that issue. Thank you. All right, let's move on then. 2900 Avenue House, the easement agreement. Mr. Nazaro.
Thank you, Mayor. Before you, I have an agreement to modify town easements. This covers the demolition of the structures on the 2900 Avenue Ocelay property, the release of certain town easements, granting of easements from the current owner, and reconstruction of water lines, so the property is not so burdened by the existing water line that currently essentially bisects the property in half diagonally. So as part of the agreement, the house and structures will be demolished 6 weeks after the effective date, which is the final approval by the town and the owner. The town will be paid code enforcement fees, which is $200 a day to the date of the effective date, or rather to today. Consistent with our discussions previously, the town will release its code enforcement lien. The town will agree to provide the new owner more time than allowed to replace the failing seawall, which was part of a separate code enforcement issue. No fines are levied there. We kind of put that into a pause while all these negotiations were ongoing, not wanting to just continue to do code enforcement on the property, given we had a motivated purchaser who was doing a lot of work to get these agreements done. The utility easement covers the entire properties. Like I said, it's going to be vacated by the town. The Gulfstream Golf Club also has a number of easements that are on the property, and they have an irrigation line that currently runs from their wells at Federal and across their coastal waterway to provide them with certain irrigation. I've reviewed, and the parties, the club and the owner have come into an agreement with everything relative to that. I know a few months ago we were ready to go, but the club was kind of taking a little bit longer to review those documents. So that has been done over the last 2 months. So again, the property owner is going to install a new water line for the town as included in the engineer drawings. If you have any questions, this is something I'm very happy to bring